Hey guys, welcome back. BDCKR here. We're back with Season 8, Episode 44 of our weekly Q&A videos. Before we get into it, normally when we do this, we have the video that we're going to put up with it playing in the background for us as we record, so we can make comments on that. I'm sure to the chagrin of anybody who listens to us on the podcast-only version when we point out stuff that's not part of their content. But this week, and for the next couple weeks, we're not going to be doing that. And
can I say even the step before that? So before that, we were pulling questions really right up until the last moment we're doing it, and we film it the same day that we upload it.
Yeah. So normally you guys get it. Sometimes we record a little bit early on a Monday and then upload on a Tuesday. But most of the time you're getting sort of our same day stuff. If you're commenting on it, the us that reads your comment is the same us that filmed it without any sleep. I don't. I felt like I was going somewhere with that, but it didn't end up making a lot of sense. But
it's of the moment, and we're gonna do something a little bit differently. Maybe you want to talk about why we're gonna do it differently for the next couple weeks.
I'm gonna be going away actually for a little while. Going on a bit of a trip, and I'm gonna have a very inconsistent sort of internet setup, timing to be at a computer, and I'm not bringing a mic because I'm trying to travel a little light, right? Yeah. So I can fit all the stuff I need inside a car.
It occurs to me actually that the way that trips now are different. You know, it used to be that the consideration is you pack as many underwear as you need for the days up to like a week or two.
Yeah.
And then you expect to wash it. Now, because of the pandemic, you're also factoring. I mean, it's not a lot of space, but it's one more piece of laundry potentially is wearing a mask and stuff, right? For the place you have to go.
Yeah, and it's going to be a weird kind of trip because we're not going to be going into places so much. We're going to the East Coast of Canada. Myself and a friend, and cases are really low there, so we can be a little bit more free, right? It's, like literally not quite, but almost like 100 times less like daily cases, right? It'll be like a daily average of like 3 cases a day and like 40 cases total in like an entire province. So, pretty under control as far as things go. And so that's not to say we won't be careful, but it's a little bit different than being in sort of the greater Toronto area, which is for Canada one of the bad places, right? Ontario generally not great.
I think Ontario now the kind of numbers have shifted a little bit away from the big places that I think Toronto maybe has one of the best vaccination rates, and that the ICU sort of occupancy, I guess, is somewhere in the low hundreds, and it's been like that for months, even with this wave that we're currently going through. It's changed the flavor of it, for sure, the vaccination rate has.
But the long and the short of it is that we are going to be recording as many things as we can. So this week you're hearing us sort of a little bit closer to our normal timing, and for the next few weeks you're going to be hearing outdated content.
Well, I guess the part that when you're talking about outdated, because sometimes we comment on current events, and by the time we get to them, they won't be so current. But this is going to be the exception to what we normally do.
Yeah, and I don't know why it matters so much to me that it's like fresh, just because I'm so used to it being really fresh that it feels qualitatively different. When we were talking about it and figuring out how to plan for it, I was like, well, I mean, we just can't. I guess we just won't have stuff. I'm like, wait a second, no, we can just. Record.
I think it has a lot to do with what we're used to and not really what the standards are. Because if you look at what most people do, they spend more time in production. Yeah. And the quality of what they put out is usually better. Yeah. But then it's not nearly as timely.
Yeah, and I'll watch a 3-year-old YouTube video, though, from a YouTuber I like. So I don't know why I'm like, oh, well, after 24 hours, it's like bagels. We can't sell it anymore.
Maybe it's because I think part of it, that is part of the value. At least it feels like that to me. That if we can't make it, it's one of those things that we've talked about this actually when you were growing up. Yeah. It's that when somebody expects a response from you, and you do it really fast, they don't expect nearly as much as when you put it off. Because if you put it off, that delay increases people's expectations. So they expect that because they've waited and because you've had more time to do something, that what you're going to do is better.
So my idea of I am with you. Right, it is. You do sort of get that feeling. But I was talking about this, and I was like, didn't we just have somebody who went through a bunch of our old videos and specifically commented? And we did, Samuel Martin.
Nice.
So,
yeah.
You went back through, and one of the comments is, I am the only one going back and watching your old videos. And so...
I like that comment.
We're going to give everybody the Samuel Martin experience today. Or
Nice.
not today, but over the next few weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, jinx. Okay.
So anyways... that's the stuff that nobody cares about, which is just my own personal life.
Yeah.
Getting into the actual questions, things that at least one person cares about.
Maybe even two, because this is a bit of a conversation thread in one of our videos.
Yeah, so two regular commenters. Credit Score. Credit Score starts by commenting, I think I remember you mentioning this in another recent video. Might be wrong, I don't know. But is there any non-paid way to get my hands on Arkham Knight Batman? And Corn Calm, sorry.
It's the kerning.
Every single time.
It's funny to me, actually, that the word kerning, it very much reminds
Sounds
me of
like
kernel.
Corning?
Kernels
Yeah.
on corn.
Yeah.
What other words have the KERN as like the root, right?
I don't know, yeah. But so Corn Calm, I have mentioned multiple times how it looks like that, and I'm going to make that mistake, and this time I just blazed right through it. We're recording late tonight, too. So Corin says he can be obtained from the 3 Celebration Packs and the Veteran Phantom Zone and the Arkham Pack. Those are the ones for credits. And then Credit Score replies, I know that Phantom Zone only gives a copy if you already have a copy of him, and I think the Celebration Packs are the same. And obviously, I don't have a copy at all. And then Corin comes back and says, really? Okay, well maybe you can't get him. Or you have to wait for the Arkham Pack to come around, though I have no idea when that will be. Though if you get him any other way, let me know, please. And then Credit comes back, isn't the Arkham Pack a paid pack, though? And then edited that comment to say, oh, that's the Arkham Origins pack. So the Arkham Pack hasn't been in years, and unlikely it will be credits when it is. And then Corin replies back, yeah, it was a good pack, and the AO Arkham Pack used to be 750,000 credits. So yeah, if the Arkham Pack returns, it'll probably be for credits. That sucks. It kind of forces you to pay.
So there's a lot to unpack here, and a lot of things that I want to interject. But one of the biggest ones, Credit or Corn Com mentioned Celebration Packs, Veteran Phantom Zone, and Arkham Pack. We've actually had it show up not as the final crystal reward in Phantom Zone on Elite Crystals, but we've had it show up as an intermediate reward.
Yeah.
Ridiculously rare. But he's shown up as the booster pack reward that you get just finishing one of those in between, not the 5th crystal.
Yeah, which is, you don't expect to get anything good in those.
Yeah, for sure. So the other part is that there are 2 Arkham packs, and the one that we're the most interested in that has the Arkham Knight pack, even though both of them have Arkham Knight pictured on the outside of the pack, which is weird, is it came back July 15th, and as we're filming this, that was just over a month ago.
So it wasn't.
It was a paid pack. So like the trend for everything else, there's very few good challenge character or rare characters or whatever power credit packs. The exceptions would be those 200,000 credit challenge packs where you get maybe a doubled chance of one particular character. So the original pack, it's basically the same original pack that was for credits, and I think the difference though is Arkham Knight Batgirl and Arkham Killer Croc have been added subsequently with the change in price. There might have even been a transition period where it showed up one time as credits with them added, and then now we pretty much know. I don't think there's any indication they're going to switch it back. They have no motivation to do so. And when I say they, I mean the developers. So the interesting thing, though, is... Alright, so the Arkham pack that showed up a bunch is the Arkham Asylum pack. That's Arkham Origins Deathstroke, Arkham Origins Batman, and Arkham Harley Quinn.
Yeah.
We went over this a month and a bit ago, that the pack, they mention... In the description, it says... 3 power random gold cards in the Arkham series. They just added Arkham Knight Batman, Arkham Knight Harley Quinn, and the Arkham Knight. And the ones that they don't mention that were added, I believe, are Arkham Killer Croc and Arkham Knight Batgirl. So there's... How many characters are there? There should be I think there's 10.
Yeah, because 10% of all the ones they list, and then a 40% chance of other characters.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Probably.
So when we opened the pack, I think they hadn't added Arkham Killer Croc or Arkham Knight back row. Those would be the extras if they're going to be in there. And I wonder if that means that they're not. I really, at some point we probably, I mean, if we had money, it's too bad it's not power credits anymore. But definitely worth testing, because those were the ones missing when it was still power credits. And I believe now that those are the 2 characters that would have been added. That's interesting.
But there's no way we're doing a 100 pack opening for a money pack.
Yeah, that's no. That would blow about half the money we've made on this channel, like, in its lifetime. Yeah.
Half, or would it blow more?
We've been doing this for 7 years. First few years were probably a little bit more.
I guess so. That would be a lot of money, though.
Yeah. So that's really it, because they mentioned, they mentioned 6 characters, 40% gold characters, and those 40% originally were divided between Arkham Origins Deathstroke, Arkham Harley Quinn, and Arkham Knight Harley Quinn. Yeah,
so if they've added the new characters, there might be 11. Potentially.
Or 12.
Or 12. Yeah.
Interesting.
So there we go. So there are ways to get it, and there are more ways to get it, but it's kind of hard. I think it's one of those things where, unless that's the only character that you want, you're probably best off just playing as you play and hoping you get lucky.
Yeah, so the deal on the Arkham Knight was not bad then, if that's the one you want. It was a relatively new mechanic that they introduced. For the longest time, they didn't have a situation like that where you could randomly get a character, but only if you had 1 copy.
That kind of sucks.
And yeah, I think we confirmed. Well, we did some testing that was consistent with that, where we had one account that didn't have it and one account that did, and these characters would show up a bunch on the account that had a copy already and would not show up at all. Although the problem always is when you've got something that's that uncommon, the drops are so low.
Yeah.
That you don't end up having it. It's not really proof that it's not there. It's just that proof that you didn't get it.
Yeah. And the other thing that's interesting is that you'd almost think they'd have to note that in the packs, right? Because of the way that they have to tell you about drop rates. It feels like a little sneaky to have somebody who's in a pack but sort of on a technicality and based off of something else, but to not have anything about that, like, drop chance, like, in it.
Is it sneaky, though? Because they have a list of, I guess, what? In those packs, they always list the 6 characters?
Yeah.
That are the least likely? Is that how they do it? Because they usually go, like, a low percentage to tease you with the chase card.
I don't know what the rules are for it.
Yeah. And then they lump it together with, 50% or 40% gold characters. So they're not really being sneaky, because part of it will be that's the appeal to you, because for everybody it's potentially a little bit different.
Yeah. Maybe. I don't know. I think the one advantage of that type of thing is it would be better if there was a credit pack that did that, right? Because that would give you the advantage of if you don't have a lot of people unlocked yet, and it actually is just within people that you've already gotten, right? That you're only getting elites for, your current roster would actually be a pretty good deal if you're starting out and you're trying to bulk your guys up, right? Mm-hmm. I think that would actually be, I think especially for early game players, a premium pack that'd be worth more than your average gold.
Right.
Yeah. Anyways.
Oh, and it occurs to me, you know what? You're right. It's 11. There's really only 11 Arkham characters. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it's whether Arkham Knight, Batgirl, and Arkham Killer Croc are going to be included in this pack.
Yeah. Okay. So there we go. Our next question comes from Gaming with Vez, and they say the set don't line up in Survivor. Start on 4th World set, LexCorp League, then SS set. It goes the first set you get when a new account is 4th World.
I don't really have anything to add to that. I think everybody's sequence is definitely the same. Mm-hmm. Where we are in the sequence, what I've seen in comments typically is that we're one off. So it can't only be where you start, because I don't know anybody who's 2 sets away. It's usually the comments, and maybe I'm not paying enough attention. It's usually just 1 set away at the most, which tells me it's more like it's like a week off.
Yeah,
potentially. And so the interesting thing about this is that every time, well, I guess I should take a step back. Part of the history is people who were playing Android for a while would know this. There was maybe a year where Android's special cards in Survivor were Suicide Companion gears.
Yeah.
And it did not change for, like I'm going to say it feels like at least a year. It might have been a little bit less, a little bit more, but it was a huge amount of time. We're getting nothing else. And they fixed it finally. And then every time they do something like a really bad bug and they fix it, it gets my hopes up. I feel like almost a little bit excited.
Yeah.
That, clearly it's not everybody's asleep at the wheel. There's somebody there making some adjustments, making some fixes, and I'm always hopeful that maybe that's a sign of something new. And then I'm always disappointed.
Yeah.
And I think about this like the same way I thought about Breakthrough. There were a few gold cards that were not in the Breakthrough cycle for the first, I don't know, I want to say 6 months to a year. Mm-hmm. And then when I added them, I thought, oh my gosh, something's going to happen. Yeah. This is a sign. And it wasn't.
I would love some insight into what that cycle looks like on the part of the developers. For there to be nothing happening in the game, seemingly ever. But then for what? Somebody to go back in every once in a while and flip some stuff around? Like, are they getting reports of it? Is there somebody on some that has some communication channel open with the person responsible for it that's communicating with them? Because the thing about what's getting fixed is that it seems like the kind of thing that you would not notice if you weren't putting any attention into it, right?
Right.
So it's like, oh well, there's these like 3 like rewards that like aren't on like the cycle, right?
Right. Hey, that was the other multiplayer, right?
Or was it 2 rewards or 3 rewards?
There were 3, I think.
There was
3, Scarecrow,
right?
There was Arkham Origins Deadshot.
Yeah.
And there was one more that I want to say, I think it was Scarecrow's Mask. I want to say that.
You said Scarecrow for the first one.
Did I say that?
Yeah. Wasn't it like Tantu Totem? It was something important.
No, Tantu Totem
No,
was
what was it then? Mother Box? No.
Mother Box was swapped out. Yeah, but it felt like there was a couple. There's one that was...
I don't remember. Yeah.
But, so exactly, the multiplayer rewards they're missing... that combined, like those are the 3 things, right? Each time one of those things were fixed. The Survivor gears, multiplayer reward cycle, missing breakthrough cards. It just felt like something's happening. Something good is going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, with the Survivor rewards, that one feels like you get a lot of comments and it'd be really easy to notice, right? But for the other one, it's like I don't know if they're just getting enough like reports, right? Or like complaints potentially that gives them a sense, but they come in and I'm like, okay, well this actually seems like someone's paying attention, right? To have made this fixed, it seems specific enough, but I guess.
Yeah, clearly that it was easier to have a little bit more hope the closer we were to the most recent new content that was added, but we're definitely. I mean, we can't reasonably expect that this is a sign of anything, although it just feels like it should be.
Yeah.
But clearly, somebody's there. It'd be nice if that somebody, if we could have it, like you said, we could have access to them and just to hear about what's happening on their end and what's, the meaning of it. It's like conspiracy theories, right? Like if there's no meaning there, our idea that we want to create some sort of just world narrative in our mind makes me want to create a story that explains what it is without having a good understanding of what actually is happening. Yeah,
and we obviously have a bias towards thinking that they're still invested in the game, but even one person working by themselves, I think we might have said this before, there would have been something out by this point, right?
Yeah.
There's clearly nobody working full-time on this.
At least on the creative level. Because this kind of, these are more like technical fixes, right? Like this to me, it doesn't require a lot of creativity to fix the cycle so that all the challenge or the multiplayer characters. Actually, we had this discussion and I'd have to look it up. I'm too lazy to. Mm-hmm. But to see if there's any challenge characters that would be missing from the cycle if the one that's currently going on continues for like
ever.
Well, I think it's like, I want to say like 40 something weeks.
Yeah.
And I don't know if there's 40 something challenge characters.
Yeah.
Or more.
I feel like there's more, but I don't actually know.
Right, because there's 144 total characters.
Yeah.
I guess that could be the next thing I could do while you're away is just like do that kind of grunt work and count through the characters.
Just for content's sake?
Just for content's sake. Like I said you're going to be away.
Yeah.
We're not going to be filming stuff which reminds me, if you're listening to this, please ask a few more questions because we're going to try to do something film a few more before we're done. And if we run out of questions, then that's going to sort of stick a wrench in the works and make it almost impossible to do this.
Yeah. So There we go. Our next comment comes from Shawn RB Perfect Pattern, and they say, you two should do Discord so I can ask the same questions that you answered a million times. Which is a fun comment. We've talked at length about how we each individually sort of feel about Discord.
Yeah.
But one thing that I think we'll say for coming back to it now is I don't know what us having a Discord would even mean. You know what I mean? There's a lot of people who I understand having a Discord, and I'm not... My Discord name is not BDCKR Gaming. So it's... and we have like a BDCKR Discord account, but we don't use it, I think, very much at all. Because I think you use a personal one and I use a personal one too,
I use
right?
a personal one, and I think I might have used the BDCKR one for a short period of time for another mobile game that I was playing.
Yeah.
And honestly, like for how much I played it, I can't, off the top of my head, I can't remember the name of it, but it was my favorite non-injustice game.
Yeah.
And I actually won a t-shirt. I've got a t-shirt from the game.
Yeah.
And I got to the point where I created these huge charts to keep track of all the different equipment, because it was basically, if I could just remember, there's Star was in the name. And you get these prizes, and they would be pieces of equipment, and you could destroy or break them up to get other stuff out of it. And they would each have sort of these elements until you had a better idea of how to fight.
It was almost like gear, right? Except you were putting gear sort of, and you were building a gun out of your gear.
I don't know if it's so much that you're building a gun, but you could use those credits to get a shot at other gear. Like there'd be booster packs.
But didn't you have a gun that you had like that you could customize the parts of, like the scope and stuff?
Oh yeah.
So that was what it was.
It was sort of, but each customized piece had its own value. So you could swap out different pieces. So you could have a ton of those in your collection.
Yeah.
But you couldn't actually construct the bits.
Mm-hmm.
So then you'd have to play the game well enough to know what was of value. And I realized as I played more that it didn't matter so much how much armor you had.
Yeah.
Most of being able to complete the tasks, and they used to have, I think, weekly competitions and stuff.
In dailies, yeah.
In dailies. But the dailies were sort of more like jobs, and the weekly ones where you'd be competing against other people to finish tasks. Speed was almost single-handedly the most important thing. Whether it was speed to reload, speed to move, or whatever, so you could dodge stuff. Because the key was not getting kills before you could do it. Like, it was basically a first-person shooter. You're jumping around and flying around and killing all these aliens.
It's like Star Alliance
Midnight Star.
Midnight Star.
Renegade Midnight Star, that's it.
Yeah.
Brilliant game.
I never ended up actually playing it. The thing I remember is watching you play it, and your device was so hopelessly out of date for it that
it was laggy like crazy.
Laggy as hell. And I could never have enjoyed the game in the format that you were playing it.
I loved it, and the sad thing is I actually had about 1 gig of footage doing one of the daily challenges where I ended up, or one of the weekly ones where I ranked first, and we lost that when we lost our hard drive on the computer. Yeah. And it totally failed, and it was, we couldn't recover it. It was actually in a RAID configuration. Yeah. And we just lost it completely.
Yeah, there's something really inherently satisfying about the type of game that you just described, right? With Renegade Midnight Star, there's something really, I mean, you know, that's the whole reason why like loot boxes were being regulated as gambling, right? Because it scratches that same sort of itch. But that like sort of like random drop, like rolling for stuff and then like building up this sort of collection of things to flip through. I mean, it's the same itch. It's a different gameplay loop, but it's the same fundamental itch that Injustice scratches, right? Yeah. Where you're like, you pull out like your binder of like character cards and you're flipping through them and you're like, which one do I want?
Oh, I had the biggest spreadsheets because they'd rank them. So there'd be gold color, there'd be purple, there'd be in lower colors, and really, the golds were the rarest. You get them every once in a while, but they weren't all as good. Yeah. And some of them would be kind of crap. And you wouldn't realize that until I set up a whole chart of all the different pieces that I got and could have gotten. And I compared them to see, well, is this better than the other? And then I'd eventually just, if I wasn't sure, I'd have to keep a whole bunch. And then I'd crush the other ones and get the credits for it and gamble at another chance for a different gold piece in case it would be better than the one I had.
Yeah, it's just, it really is a certain itch, and it's hard to describe how satisfying it can be to just build up that collection of stuff. And I'm almost half glad that I don't have the kind of time to sink into those types of experiences.
Yeah.
Because they can eat your time so fast.
Right.
You know, like MMOs and stuff.
Yeah.
I have a friend who's pretty deep into an MMO.
Which one?
The Final Fantasy 14 online or something.
Yeah.
And he just plays it pretty constantly. And it's like a lot of his free time. And he does other stuff. I don't. It's not like it's the only thing that he does. But it's just so easy to put like, you know, hundreds of hours into it.
Yeah, because your free... again, same thing, right? Like, my free time, if I was doing anything... We get this question a lot about, well, you know, you could do Injustice 2, you could do Mortal Kombat, X, and I think, oh my god.
And we say a lot comparatively speaking. We, you know, every once in a while.
Yeah, but the thing is, I mean, I have literally dozens of books on the shelves that I'm dying to read. I'm waiting till I retire and I have the time to read it. I've accumulated a collection because, you know, you hear about these interesting things and there just isn't enough time in the day. Never mind reading a book, which requires, you know, having a chunk of time to really be able to sort of immerse yourself in something. There's other content where you can just, you know, you got half an hour to kill, you watch a TV show. It's just, there's so much content. Did I mention this? I was listening to or watching a series of lectures that Ada Palmer had coordinated about censorship. And one of the things she talked about that blew my mind, and I know it wasn't so much that blew my mind that was possible, it just blew my mind that I hadn't thought about it, that there was a point in publishing history where there were people, well-educated people, who could have read every single book that had ever been published.
Yeah. I think you have mentioned that.
Okay, that blows my mind that there was a world like that where every single book was potentially at your fingertips and you had the time to be able to read through all of them. And again, it's ridiculous. It's just not even the concept of this. I don't even know the names of all the books that have been published in the last year. And I don't know that. Yeah, it's mind-boggling.
There's just content at a huge scale. We have access to so much information, but it really necessitates us that like slow down and focus and like not each one individual piece has to be such a small part of a framework, and you know you have to pick and choose what you consume. But even more than that, like there's so much stuff that we don't even get to pick from all the stuff. The sort of world around us, our sensory world, is sort of determined at least a little bit by randomness, where there could be a great TV show that you would love that you just will never even hear of because there's a billion TV shows that, you know, you could look up 100 lists on what to watch. You could look up what stuff is coming out right now and just miss it because, you know, it fell through the cracks.
Yeah. I think that's one of the sad things too, right? When you talk about the quality of some of the content, getting popular has a lot less to do with the quality than it has to do with at least a bare minimum quality plus reaching the correct audience.
Yeah.
I read something, I just saw a tweet on Twitter where it talks about success in publishing is basically a result of three things. One is your publishing house puts a huge amount of their manpower and publicity into making something famous. Two, you're already famous, you got an established audience. And three is word of mouth. And since most people, 90% of writers don't have the first two, they really rely on the last one. And you need to, if you really like something, the most important thing and the most useful thing you can do is share it with your friends. Share it with people to make sure there's a better chance it reaches the right person. Because all it takes is the right people to spread the word, and all of a sudden there's a difference between being a mid-list author and a bestseller.
Yeah. And that's why I think it is really important to signal boost media that you like. And I know, I mean, people know, the longer you've been following us, the more you know we like to signal boost media. We don't do it as much anymore.
Yeah.
But we used to with our monthly unboxing, right? We used to do a recommendation at the end of every episode, pretty much. Yeah.
And here's the funny thing, right? Like, it might sometimes feel like it doesn't make a difference because the audience that we have is relatively small. But even if it reaches a different type of audience, right? All it takes is one other person who discovers something great. Remember, we got some good responses about Corner Gas and Ken Grimwood's replay. I remember it's because of specific comments. I remember them coming back and saying, "Hey, that was pretty cool."
Now, this is a fun opportunity. If you've listened to this part, there's probably not that many of you, but you're also probably like us more than the average person who clicks off after like 15 minutes or whatever. If we've ever recommended any piece of media to you and you've gone and checked it out and enjoyed it, let us know. And also, if you have any media to recommend to us or other people in the comments, go ahead and drop those in the comments. If there's something that you love, especially if there's something that you love that you don't think has gotten as much attention as it's deserved.
And it doesn't even have to be an obvious connection, because we were talking, I don't know if we were talking on this or just in real life, that Bo Burnham, Inside, was really good.
Yeah.
And the connection that I made was, so it's not an obvious one. To me, it had a lot of similarities to In and of Itself.
Yeah, you made that connection. I hadn't thought about it at all, but it was really apt.
Because the way, to me, the part that really struck me with Bo Burnham, because clearly Bo Burnham's really talented, he's good with music, he's great with the effects. Like, there's certain things that he did really neat, and he let you see what he was doing when he was doing it, like the lighting effects.
He's a really considered person, and he has clearly a mind for that kind of thing. Right? That was a really sort of special piece of media.
Yeah. But the bigger thing of what worked for me and stood out was that it didn't have like a strict narrative where it was telling a story from point A to point B. I mean, there was a story there. Part of it was isolation, dealing with mental health issues, and the kind of stuff that you don't have any control over. So it was loosely there, but it didn't. That wasn't the, sort of the through line of it, right? Like, they didn't go through each moment. Yeah. And a big part of it was that what he did was, he had these setups to give you this effect, and without necessarily having a clear linear narrative. Yeah. These were really sort of powerful moments. Yeah. Where you thought, holy crap, and you realized when he got there what he was setting up.
It's almost defies description, because I think you have it's meant to be really personal. I think there's sort of two through lines. The main through line to Inside, I would actually argue, more than any of the themes that you've already talked about, is creation. Because I think Bo, in a lot of his media, a lot of his specials, but like even in like 8th grade and stuff, right? A big focus is the sort of relationship between an artist and their art, and the relationship between an artist and the audience of that art, right? And so I think, the way that that special was done was really interesting, and there was a huge amount of work in sort of this pseudo pulling back the curtain, right? Where it's like, oh, well, here's him setting up the shot, here's, him like lying and doing like what is just a bit of like observational, I don't even know if it's humor, right? Just like an observation, maybe stream of consciousness stuff would be a better way of describing it. But he's just like laying down in these massive cables, and you're like, okay, well, like, you're looking at the setup, right? Or like him watching back a song when it's done, or a song ending, and then him saying like, let's do that one more time, right? And then starting it again. And that stuff makes you feel like you've really removed the layer between you.
The artifice.
But the other thing is, in the same time, is that's actually, there's a lot of work still going into the artifice of showing it to you. Right? Like, he's showing you like a different angle that never shows up in any shot. So clearly he's set up, a camera there, and either had it on for an extremely long time and edited it down, or, he's filmed this moment, right? And the moment is, staged and acted in the same way that the rest of the special is. All of it is really sort of interesting. And then after a certain point, you have to ask, like, and I think what makes it so good is that it doesn't matter which one it is, whether he's established. What it is it's a really strong tone piece, and that's one of the reasons why you compared it to In and of Itself.
Right. So it gives you these moments of these huge, for me, these huge emotional moments, and I didn't even know I was getting there until I got there. And when I got there, I could see what he'd done to set it up, but it wasn't as obvious, and it didn't feel forced either. Like, it didn't feel, how sometimes when you're manipulated, you feel like, they're just jerking me around, and that to me that's melodrama.
Yeah.
But this was, oh my god, it just hit me, and it was almost like this moment of breathlessness in both of them.
Yeah.
And there's no other connection. Like, I mean, there's no singing in and of itself. It's not comedy. It's a Broadway stage magic show.
Yeah. It's really good storytelling, and the interesting thing is, so one of the things that Bo Burnham looks at a lot when he's looking at the relationship between artist and art in his stuff is like people feeling like they know him. There's this sort of level of intimacy that is kind of inappropriate. Like, he literally has a song called "We Think We Know You," which was what ended his first special, What, right?
Okay.
So I think one of the things when you look at the special that you're inclined to do is feel like you come out of it knowing more about Bo.
Right.
Feeling like you have this sort of connection, right? Even if it's one way. And it's hard to tell, because I think it would be fair to say that the way that the special is set up, you're supposed to feel close to him, right?
Right.
The way that he's crafted it, there is this sense of bringing you into his life.
Sure, yeah.
And bringing you close to him. But at the same time, I know that this is somebody who spends a huge amount of time thinking about, like, parasocial relationships, or at least dealing with it through his art. Right. I don't know how long he spends thinking about it in his personal life, and that's kind of the point, right?
Yeah.
So there's this interesting push and pull, right? Where you don't know how much of this is real. I'm not trying to say that, he's faking, right? I'm not trying to say that this is, him tugging at your heartstrings, and then, like, he's, like, crying on camera, and then the second the camera turns off, he's like, okay, let me do that again, and he's emotionless.
Right.
But, we don't have this insight. So there's a really interesting balance that it strikes between fake and real. And there's a really interesting balance that Bo, as a performer, strikes between bringing you in and making you feel connected to him, but then also trying to sort of remind you of that distance, not just in one piece of work, but throughout his whole body of work.
Right.
And I think what's really impressive is that there's a lot of things in tension there, and it still works really well. I don't know how much of it's real, how much of it's fake. I don't know what the balance is, and it almost doesn't matter.
Right, because it has the feeling of authenticity, even though you don't have any way of confirming it.
Yeah.
Which is the best kind of fiction to me.
Yeah, and to some extent, it's not in the media. Like, there's no way of knowing, and it's almost not worth analyzing. It's not worth going, oh, is Bo actually upset here, right? Because, like, what does that mean at the end of the day? Right? And what does that mean for me? Nothing, right? My relationship with him, I would feel for him as a person feels for another person, but we have no sort of connection to each other outside of that. So, it's a really interesting show, and you can really sink your teeth into it if you want to. And it also has some great music.
Yeah. No, I absolutely
There's a lot of
loved
things
it.
about
I
it
love
that are really
both
good.
of them.
Yeah.
I strongly recommend both of them. Yeah.
And I have been a fan of Bo Burnham for a long time. And I realize now that I almost have trouble going back to his earlier stuff because his new stuff is just so good.
Yeah.
That it really feels like a step back in almost every way to look at his old specials. I mean, there's more comedy in them, for sure. But, like, the comedy that is there in the newer ones is also just better. Sharper. And objectively, I don't know if it's better or not. It appeals more to my sensibilities now anyways. He's somebody
because you've grown with it.
Yeah, I've grown with it really well. So that's our recommendation for Inside, the thing that every other person has already seen.
Yeah.
If you've been motivated to, and even if you haven't, you have heard content from it. It's pretty hard to escape on the internet. But yeah, no. I mean, good stuff. I almost wanted to make a video essay, but I just felt like I couldn't put my thoughts coherently about Inside, and I didn't think that I could say anything that somebody else hadn't already said, and I wasn't sure if it was worth saying as its own thing about Inside. It's a hard thing to grapple with.
Right.
Anyways, so we're gonna call it for this week. We will see you. You'll hear from us next week, and we will probably record this in about 10 minutes from now.
Yeah.
So to finish up, we have some people that we'd like to thank. I would like to give a shout out to Eliza Moto Likes Her Caton. She's decided that she's okay with the 15 pounds she's gained. And this shout out was brought to you by Eliza because I would never make a comment like that by myself. I want to be clear, I'm not here to judge that for anybody else, but we've all had our own experiences through quarantine.
Yeah.
And, bodies change. It's natural.
Yeah.
Not good or bad. It's value neutral. As long as you feel good about yourself is what's important.
Yeah. So that is the most important part of the message, is that she's okay with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And in general, I think being healthy is important.
Being healthy and being happy with yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of ways to get there.
Yeah.
So there we go. And we'd also like to give a huge thank you to all the lovely folks who support us on Patreon.
And that's a big thank you to Victor Gomez, Consul Peasant, and Edwoon at the top tier last word, Sinemac, and Mohammed Albshaiti at the Your Message Here tier. See, this time I'm not screwing it up. I'm putting the ands where they belong.
Yeah.
Shawn, Farrell, Daniel Simonson, Aaron Maule, Michael DeVries, Brandon C., Irvin, Ruiz, and Eddydoo at the accredited level. And Chris Wolf, Scarlett Danny, Awesome Gamer 241, Pavu RS, Gavin Malott, and Isfar E at the gratitude level.
There we go. Thanks so much for your support. And thanks so much to all of you for watching. We'll see you next time.
Komoda.